This is Harper Road in Southwark, but in Victorian times it was known as Horsemonger Lane. And between 1799 and 1878, Horsemonger Lane Jail stood exactly here on the right, where Newington Gardens stand today. With a gallows erected upon the prison's roof, 135 public executions took place here. And if you'd been here on the morning of Tuesday, the 13th of November 1849, you would have witnessed the unpleasant deaths of Frederick and Maria Manning. After being convicted of murdering a man named Patrick O'Connor, the Mannings would be the first married couple hanged together since 1700. And with notorious hangman William Calcraft employed as their executioner, the newspaper attention had been intense. A double hanging always attracted a larger crowd, but the numbers that had turned up to watch this one were unprecedented. With 600 or 700 police officers on scene to keep order, as many as 50,000 people had assembled here, while countless others, having paid for the privilege, watched on from the windows of the houses opposite. With the time drawing near, however, the scene was an ugly one. Fights were breaking out, gangs of pickpockets were making their way through the crowd, and the immense mass of people was already causing a crush, with unconscious spectators being carried out of it by police. Thousands of people, meanwhile, were shouting taunts, singing inappropriate songs, and screeching, laughing, and yelling in full chorus. The shrillness of the cries and howls of the children in attendance, it was said, made the blood run cold. And, having arrived to see it himself, legendary novelist Charles Dickens was disgusted. Thieves, low prostitutes, ruffians, and vagabonds of every kind, he would write, were engaged in every variety of offensive and foul behaviour, and were so inexpressibly odious in their brutal mirth and callousness that a man had cause to feel ashamed of the shape he wore. The crime that had brought the Mannings to the gallows, in fact, had faded in his mind before the atrocious bearing, looks, and language of the assembled spectators, and when the procession then finally made its way out under the roof at precisely 9 o'clock, even Calcraft looked uncharacteristically nervous. He seemed extremely pale, the Coleraine Chronicle would report, but with the Mannings in position, he quickly secured the ropes around their necks. He then stepped back and pulled the bolt, but as they fell through the platform, the crowd suddenly surged forward. Dozens of people were trampled, and one woman was killed, but while the Mannings struggled convulsively above them, the crowd simply continued with their previous obscenities. Dickens stood astounded and appalled by what he saw, and a sight so inconceivably awful, he said, could be imagined by no man. The Mannings, anyway, were then finally cut down at 10 o'clock, and later that evening were buried within the precincts of the jail. That means, however, they're surely still here, and along with 133 other people, are lying somewhere beneath these gardens. I'll see you back here next week for another Morbid Monday.